I'm Phil Davis. I'm currently acting as the RO for the Welsh Green Party. You might have noticed on the emails we originally had 2 candidates for the leadership post, but unfortunately Bridget has pulled out, so we have Ian now. I did have some questions through via email, which I'll ask first, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So I don't want to come here. Right, the first question that came through was, what is your stance on nuclear power, particularly in regarding the Wilbur small modular reactor proposals, and how you think would be best to fight them?
My position on nuclear power is the Green Party position. We're unequivocally opposed to it. There's no ifs, no buts. The small modular reactors do bring a new element to it, and we are going to have to think about that policy-wise, how we respond to that. But my gut instinct is we still haven't got a solution to the problem of nuclear waste, whatever the reactors we're using, so we owe it to future generations not to be creating nuclear waste.
Okay, the second question that came through was, with house prices and rent in various areas of Wales now forcing locals out of their communities, in place of people buying second homes or homes being sold to let out as holiday rents, what can we do as a party to ensure that Welsh Government ensures that local people can get access to houses in their communities?
It's a really good topical issue. I've been having long conversations with the Cornish Greens about this because it's an issue in Cornwall as well. We have to be careful how we handle it. There are various levers, and one way the Welsh Government chickened out, they gave local authorities the option to have a 100% increase on second homes in council tax, but they passed the buck on to local authorities to do that. I think one local authority has done it. That's one of the tools I think we should be using. The other thing that we need to close is the loophole where people register their buy-to-let as a business and pay no council tax. That's something that we can definitely believe it can be used. And we do have to look at the problem the other way around as well and create enough affordable social housing for young people to keep young people in communities, but also seeing the bigger picture is creating the infrastructure in those communities so that those young people want to stay there. But it is a thorny issue, one that all parties are wrestling with, expecting an announcement from Plaid and Labour on this next week, so it'll be interesting to see what they say. Yes, I would have no exemptions on council tax, 100% increase on council tax, and also a limit to the number of days properties can be left vacant. There should be some sort of financial penalty for that. Okay. We want to see houses as homes, not investments.
So the third question that came through was, with the Senate Electoral Reform Committee recommending adding an extra 20 to 30 members, what can we do as a party to help ensure this happens and that future elections use a more proportional voting system?
This is really current and topical. Some of you have seen the news that since the election at the Senate level, Labour and Plaid have been in talks. Not Plaid joining the government, but Labour don't have an overall majority in the Senate. So they're working out a legislative programme with Plaid on issues that they can agree on. And those talks included housing, social care, but most crucially, parliamentary reform, how we elect the Senate. Those talks ended yesterday. Both parties going back to their respective executive committees today to get it verified, and then they'll be announcing the results of those talks next week. The one thing I can tell you is that they are going to propose increasing the Senate to 80 or 90 members. That's something both parties have agreed on. The way they're going to do that is by increasing the number of seats on the regional lists. That means we will get 7 Senate members for the next election. We would have had 3 or 4 this time round. If they're looking at 7 to 9 seats on each regional list. We would have had Senate members this time, and we will definitely have it next time.
And the final one that I got through was, do candidates think that constantly referring to our party as eco-socialist is a bar to widen the appeal to voters?
It's a trick one. I personally, my politics are socialist, but I've never called myself an eco-socialist. It's not something, a label I feel I need to own. Touches on a lot of things that Ian's mentioned about, we need to get voters from across the spectrum. The matters that we're campaigning on are so urgent. There are some very good people who do call themselves that, but it can be a distraction. It's the party talking to itself internally when we need to be talking to the public at large, getting our values. And our values are radical. I would argue that our policies and values are even more radical than that phrase. But it's not, I don't find it personally a helpful phrase about that.
Okay, so that's the questions we got through from emails. So I'm just going to open it up to the floor and leave it with Anthony to answer your questions, basically. So if anyone has any questions.
suppose, I've heard you answer it before, I was just wondering whether you've changed it. Obviously in England the Greens are doing very strong, and in Scotland they've been doing very well. In Wales we haven't been doing so well. Can you identify anything that you think that we're doing wrong in Wales, especially with we're losing some key members to Plaid? I'm just wondering whether you've got any thoughts.
It's a question I've been asked a lot by the media in the last few weeks. What are we doing wrong? Because let's not beat around the bush. One of the things we've done wrong historically in Wales is we haven't done what Ian's been talking about. We haven't had the discipline to do what works in England. Historically, when I joined 10 years ago, we only had 300, 400 members. So there's a question of resources as well and how we utilise those resources. I'm pleased to say, I was involved with the party in the Green Surge when membership was going up by the day. We're not quite at that level yet, but it's happening again. It's going up month on month, and that is encouraging. And that is based on our Senate election, which, as I said earlier, was our most successful, the most professional, and most organised. We need to do more. It's hard work, as Ian's rightly identified. We need to engage our members. Too often we talk to the same small group of people that come to meetings, and we've got many, many more members. So we need to engage them. We get more media attention than our profile merits, which is good. People want to talk to us. And what also happens, something like Scotland, the fantastic success in Scotland, that plays well for us here because people see that Greens, because that's the barrier again, as Ian mentioned. People don't think they want to vote for us, but they don't think we can win. That's why next year is so important. We make that breakthrough, then we're on the road to Senate victories. But yeah, the answer is resources and hard work. And as I mentioned earlier, Ian's mentioned as well, we are getting incredible support from the wider party. We need to use that support and show them that it's well invested.
So what are your moral questions about accepting donations from corporations? I mean, funding is a big, party can't grow without any fund.
Yeah.
And, what are, accepting, from corporates, from green corporations, because lack of any campaign is, fund.
Yeah, you're right. Fundraising is key. And it's one of the things that's held us back in Wales. We only have 2 major donors that I know of in Wales, where there are quite a lot of them in England. I'm really proud of our principles on accepting funding. We don't take funding from big corporations with dirty habits. We have a very clear policy, a scrutiny committee that oversee any donations that are made to us, and we reject donations if they are morally dubious. A few years ago, Vivienne Westwood gave us a large amount of money. A week later, it turned out she had her money in a tax haven. We gave the money back. We have to stand by our principles. But you're right, we do need to identify there are companies, organisations that we can take money from, and we should be asking for money. Some of the good news from the wider parties, we recently got a new head of development, Chantel, and that is key. She's come from the British Legion, where she was in charge of fundraising there. She knows how to extract money from people. We all do lots of community engagement fundraising, curry and comedy, or have a social and raise some money, and they're really good for membership engagement and building morale, but they don't raise the money we need. So yes, we do need to identify those people who want to see Greens elected and have got the money to give to us and aren't compromised so that we can take that money. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm pleased to say it is being undertaken in a very serious way right now.
The Green Party in Germany has been doing very well. I'm wondering if the Green Party leadership is looking at the Green Party in Germany and learning anything from them or learning anything not to do.
Yeah, we can learn a lot from the Germans, and there are Greens in government in one shape or form in 8 countries in Europe at the moment. Obviously, the first thing we always say is the voting system helps. They've got a fairer proportional voting system. 5% of the vote, popular vote in an election, guarantees you a seat in the chamber. So we would have Senate members if that's the case here. But we also have to be wary as a party of constantly blaming the voting system, because we have the voting system that exists and we have to win within that. It's not good enough for us just to say the voting system is stacked against us. I think we can learn a lot from the Germans, and I think we already have, on presentation, communications. They look professional, they sound professional. And again, it goes back to this thing we keep stressing, they get things done. And that's what happens when you get, Scotland's a good example. You get a few Scottish MSPs, a few years later you've got 2 Scottish ministers. So it is vital that we work with those parties and learn from them. And one of the things that I was in the process of setting up just before COVID was making connections with European parties. We had this idea, I think, talk to you about it, Lauren, of twinning local parties. So Cardiff might twin with Frankfurt's Green Party, doing some exchanges, learning from each other. Because one thing we need to remember as well, we're Wales Green Party, we're part of the Green Party of England and Wales, but we are also part of the European Green Party. We are part of that family, so we need to learn from the other parties. You're absolutely right. Anything else?
Basic question really, what do you see, you've been in the role for 3 years now, what do you see as the main purpose of your role? What's your job?
Well, the title, as some people sometimes remind me, the title is spokesperson. You know, we use the word leader because that's a word that the media understand. It makes sense when political parties have leaders. I see the role to be the outward-looking face of Wales Green Party, to represent our policies and communicate our policies, but also to help build the party, working with fantastic officers, and Lauren as the deputy has been really good, working together to build the party. A lot of what I did pre-COVID was travelling around Wales, helping set up local parties or boosting local parties. So I think it's two things. It's the public outward-facing thing, being a recognisable face, and we need more than one. We need 2 or 3 faces that the media know that's Wales Green Party. So it's being that, it's banging on the door of BBC as often as I can, forcing our way into getting representation, being the person that the public know of as Wales Green Party and can approach, but also being a part of building the morals to growing our party and finding those people. We've got so many people with talents that we don't know and skills that we're not using, so that's a large part of it as well, I think.